everyone. Thank you for joining us for Leading Conversations, Episode 4. I am Dr. Raedene Copeland, and this is Mr. Denis Barnard. And today we're here to talk to you about leading with influence. But before we get started, we have to check in on our dear friend Denis and see how he's doing today. How are you today, Denis?
Yeah, I'm in very good shape. It's been a very busy time, but somehow it's stirred me to move along and get things done. So sometimes you need that jolt, and it's certainly been a very interesting time. And we're now heading for a very interesting topic. This is what I'm looking forward to.
Exactly. Well, my week has been quite interesting also. I feel as if I have a lot of major decisions right on my heels. And yeah, a lot of major decisions right on my heels. So that has been burdening me some. But I am pretty excited to talk about the topic of influence because, as you know, I am a global leadership development coach. I put the word global there because of my immigrant background and all the lessons I've learned trying to navigate a country that's not mine and having the influence to achieve my goals. So when I chose this topic, right, and Denis, you gladly came along for the ride. I felt as if it was so important for us to bring our listeners in to discuss what they think about leadership. Is it something that they think about when they envision themselves as a leader? So the questions we would be tackling today, right? We will be tackling today, not would, will. We will be tackling, is influence a key leadership trait? And if you believe that it is or it is not, maybe you're just saying you just need to be credible, right? Just be credible, do the job, show up, right? If it is a key leadership trait, then is it a natural trait? Can people develop it? Or how do great leaders be leaders of influence? So that's the general topic we're discussing today. And we would like to invite you in on this discussion and hear our views, but also share your opinions on what we're talking about today. So, Denis, you said you wanted me to lead off, or do you have something you want to start with?
No. By all means, I'm fascinated to hear your lead into this one.
Yes, well, Denis, as you know, part of my leadership training is explaining to people that I believe there are two key words in being a leader of distinction. And they may not be fuzzy words, and they can be misinterpreted. But I do believe that if people remember that everything they do in their relationships boils down to sales and negotiation. It's sales and negotiation. Now, sales and negotiation, they both have very, very sales, you're selling me something. Negotiation, why does someone have to win? So two of these words that people typically feel uneasy about are sales and negotiation, but it is my experience in influencing and trying to navigate my goals and my training in my 20s in sales that really led me to appreciate what that word really means and how central it is to everything we do in our lives. It is a key part of every role we hold, right? In our households, in our personal relationships, and in our professional and business relationships. So I want to start with the idea of, simply put, influence is the ability to invite someone to do what you need them to do, right? And it's not only in an action. It's not only, oh, I need you to give me money, or I need you to complete this task. you also need them to behave a certain way. So influence is your ability as a leader to incite or encourage or engender or whatever it is, the behaviors you want on your team and in a broader scope, the organization. So I just want to start with that definition, Dennis, and bring you in, and then we can build and go back and forth. That is my way of saying, simply put, that is what negotiate. That is what influence is.
I think you're absolutely right. When I was considering this question, I actually came to the conclusion you aren't a leader unless you're influencing. I'd say that is a non-negotiable element of being a leader, because beyond that you're just giving orders, and that is not influencing. You're just a manager. So I think the influencing taken right across the board is twofold. One is, as you've quite rightly said, you incite or encourage or you make people voluntarily want to do something. The other element I saw in this, which is probably more of a modern context, is that people actually want to be like somebody. They want to actually imitate their behaviors. And that may it might be a straightforward observation of your boss or somebody, often in the media or television. I mean the characters, not the players, or on social media. You think, I want to be like that because that person is ethical, because that person whatever, or actually if I dress like Brad Pitt, I might be like Brad Pitt. So, there's those two strands, isn't there, in a way? One is, I want to do this because this person has inspired me, because they have influenced me. And the other thing is, if I dress like this person and I act like this person, maybe I could be like this person. And I think there is a multi-zillion dollar industry out there working on this very premise, whether they're trying to sell you coffee or beer. It's the lifestyle advertising, isn't it? If you want to sell chewing gum or something, you show a certain group of people, and that's kind of their influencing, which is very commercial. But there is that instilling that desire, if you like, to be like somebody, to copy them, to dress like them, or even act like them, which is obviously the most powerful of all. One character, just say film, for many decades has been actually quite influential. Now it's more television and social media, but film, characters like Maximus in Gladiator, people think, my God, this person's a real leader. I want to be strong like him. I want to be, and that is influence in a way. And it's a great thing if it's used correctly, of course.
Exactly. And that is very, very profound in terms of you touched on all the various categories there, right? Influence is modeling, right? Influence is modeling. Then you went to the nonverbals, which I would love to talk about, the dress, and then just the mere act of people being influenced by idols or whosoever they look up to. So in my PhD, Dennis, we studied dress as this whole theoretical construct as we dissected consumer behavior in the apparel retail industry.
Right.
Now, that is the thing. That is marketers and anyone who has a business, like even in this podcast, we're hoping to influence people to keep tuning in to hear what we have to share and hear what we think. Now, the thing about it, I want to just categorize this in terms of influence is nonverbal first. And when we talk about nonverbal, we're talking about everything you communicate knowingly or unknowingly.
Yeah.
Your appearance. And that's the one thing I was fascinated by when I started digging into the theoretical research around behaviors and different cultures and leaders and so forth, and how retail stores set up their atmospherics and so forth to influence you to buy, right? There is always an end game. The thing is that you have to hope and know that what you're offering is of service to somebody. And that's where
Yeah.
this negotiation come in. So those are the nonverbals part, right? The way we appear, and the way we appear is how can I put, impact the onlooker or the person who's interacting with us
Yeah.
actively, how we impact their psychological states, their five senses, right? So that's the first part of influence, your nonverbals. So I will always tell my clients or the audiences I speak to that from the time, right? Let's just talk about from the time you step on stage, you have already set your basis for how you're going to influence that audience and how they're going to engage with you. And a lot of people will say, and have said, oh, well, how I dress doesn't matter. Okay? How I dress, oh, you know that. How I dress doesn't matter. People, how I look doesn't matter. You know, people just that superficiality. It's all about what's on the inside. You know, my parents love me. God loves me. This one loves me. It is great. But if only we were in a world of one, where the way we appear, the way we behave, even before we open our mouths, if only world where we were our own banks, we were our own, mentors, we were only that would be one thing, but then you'd just be like in Castaway, like Tom Hanks, right? I mean, don't care. But that is not how it works. So I often tell people in my training from the first time you engage with anyone who can influence your life, they're making judgments about you. If you're speaking, if you're coming to a meeting, doing a presentation, from the step in that room, whatever decisions you made at home, whatever states you come with, you are going to influence what they think about you and what you're going to provide them today, because people don't have time to waste. So as a leader, it is imperative that you sit and you think about how you appear every day. It may have been cool as an employee, but as a leader, you're moving into a different level. Now that is the nonverbals. Now then the verbals. So if you can master your nonverbals to a brand identity that you can live with and stand by, then when you speak, you're either giving yourself a higher platform to start off with or a lower platform to start off with. So if you come in and you are looking disheveled and your moons are not right and you're dressed sloppily or whatever it is, lipstick on your shirt or something, coffee on it, whatever it is, people are sitting down there looking at you and they're not thinking about what you're about to do. It's just subconscious. They're psychoanalyzing what's
they
going
are
on.
judging, aren't they? They are judging you.
Exactly, because they're all of these what's the word I'm looking, stimuli that you send out from your appearance. And then based on what they think, be it like they're like, oh, this speaker today gonna be like a 5, an 8, oh, this person looks really credible. Then when you speak, what you choose to say to your employees or your leaders or the broader society, then that's when they confirm, right? It's either they confirm or they revise what they think about you. And it's like this leveling out process. It's like a meter that keeps going up and down till in the end of your interaction with them, they make a decision about if you gained their trust and if you can indeed influence them. And as a leader, that is of critical importance because you may not have all of the skill sets needed to get your team to rise. That's why it's a team. Like you're just the leader. Your job is to motivate, influence, and develop, right? Set the tone for your team to collectively succeed. But if you don't think of all of these other aspects, then you are already setting yourself up for a very long, arduous journey. I'm going to stop there and let you jump in.
I realize all of that. I mean, part of that, that dressing piece is important. It's not just important for outward appearance. if I appear on a stage in a suit and tie, they'll say, this is an old guy wearing a suit and tie, and this is going to be boring. Or we're going to listen to what happened in my day and all that stuff. So if I roll on there in a black polo neck jumper and so on, they're going to say, well, maybe this fellow is more, he's kind of, relaxed and so on. So there's that perception, which is very important. I think if you can get your audience on side and start to actually accept you, then the whole process is quicker. But at the end of the day, they're going to judge you by your actions. There'll be that kind of bias or preconception when they see how you dress. When you open your mouth, when you do things, and I think it's probably even the doing rather than the talking. Because, a person may not talk a very good game, but if they actually get into action and do the stuff, people will say, my goodness, this person gets stuff done. But that kind of dressing in a style also has a lot to do with the inner confidence of a person. I think if they feel that they are in character when they appear, that goes a long, long way. I mean, if you look at football fans, they all go crazy over their favorite footballers. They all have the slightly radical hairstyles that all the footballers have and so on. So these are idols. They influence, and the industry is geared towards these idols as they come towards the end of their playing days. Then design sports gear, which everybody wants to buy, and you're now into that popular influencing style. And if we take people like the Kardashian family, and Ye West and so on, I mean, there are two elements, aren't they? One is people think they look elegant, they have a wonderful lifestyle. That is an influence. And then they may say, well, actually, I could try and do something like that because it doesn't seem to be rocket science. And whether they can or not is not. But actually, it does influence people to dress like that, try and act like that, and so on. And whether this is a good thing or a bad thing is neither here nor there. It's all about business. It's a business. And that's why I always say, influencing is a good or a bad thing, depending who it is. Before the Second World War, countries have had people who are very, leaders who are influencing, but for the wrong reasons, for different ends. So one has to be careful about who one is actually being influenced by, I would say.
Exactly. So I agree. And one of the things I wanted to touch on from what you said and build off into more of what I'm going to share is that you spoke about how they appear, right? So you're piggybacking off that. And I want to say that, as I mentioned, you're always influencing, even if you're trying or not. There's somebody, you may have a younger sibling who you don't even know is watching everything you do while you're thinking, I'm just living for myself, right? Or we're talking in leadership, you may be influencing someone, even if you're not in a leadership role. And that's how they eventually will start nominating you for leadership roles, like we spoke about in our first podcast.
Yeah.
Hidden leader. The point I want to make clear is that you're always influencing. But what I want to bring home in terms of leadership development is that when you do sign up for these leadership roles, it does require you to assess the character that you are going to present. You are on stage, oftentimes than not. You're on stage even when you're not at work. And that's why companies have policies for how you behave outside of work. They say you are still representing the organization. So to them, even when you're not at work, your behavior at an event on social media is influencing how they are perceived. That's how people get fired, by writing all sort of stupidness on social media, because they are influencing and the organization does not want other people to believe that these are the views that they endorse. So I want to just say that influencing requires intentionality, right? And it's not manipulation. It is your responsibility, and it behooves you to manage your career by deciding what type of influence you would like to have. So for you to decide what type of influence you would like to have, you have to really start assessing and categorizing your different selves, right? So there is your private self, there is your public self, and there is your secret self. There is a whole theoretical study on that, right? So there's your secret self, there's your private self, who you are at home and so forth, with close ones, and then there's your public self. And what happens with talks about authenticity is that people feel that showing up authentically means that you just show up like who you are, period. But that's
I was going to ask you
right?
about this because
Right.
I believe that the whole range should be totally consistent. I don't think that I've ever been a different person at work than I was in my home life or whatever, or in social life. I've always tried to be consistent. And well, for a start, it's easier. You could find yourself in a situation and say, oh, what mask am I wearing here? So in that sense, it's probably easier to be consistent. And that, I believe, is probably the essence of authenticity. It's an overused word, but I think authentic is being yourself, isn't it? And if you are being yourself in a private context or in a business context, and they're the same, I would say you have a higher level of authenticity.
Right. I think there are two things to consider, right? So I think authenticity is basically your core values showing up wherever you are. Now, when we speak about influence, going back to this idea of the categorization and the formula, the equation of your nonverbal plus your nonverbal behavior plus your verbal behavior plus your consistent action, right? Right? So your nonverbal, just how you show up, your verbal, right? What you say, who you say you are, and what you say you're going to do, and then your actions lead to how successful you are influencing people with whatever agenda you have. Now, all of these are really, really, like touchy words: sales, negotiation, agenda. But that's what it is. It's just called different things in software according to your audience. They'll say, I don't have an agenda. I just want people to be their best. That's an agenda. It's just certain words have been politicized to where feel as if, oh, you have an agenda, you're trying to manipulate me. No, an agenda. Who has a meeting? Who has a successful meeting without an agenda? An agenda is literally the goals you are trying to.
It's the objective. Yes, quite right.
The objective, that's all it is, right? So basically, that formula there requires you to think even before you speak, right? Understand that every time you are a leader, you are on stage, right? And you are on stage with an audience that I see it as politics, right? They're always trying to get the middle. Okay, so you're going to have people who love you no matter what you do. You're going to have people who don't like you no matter what you do. You may convert some of them, right? You make them, and then you're going to have the apathetic. And I really do think that success boils down to the apathetic, the ones who they couldn't care less about you. They have their people. It's not that I don't like him or her. I just don't care because I have my person. And your job as a leader, even if you're just over one team, as I said, every time you show up to negotiate things for your team, you are influencing. You are people who do not want to give you what you want, do not care to give you what you want, and may have a history of not giving that said team what they want. So how now do you become a leader who is so conscious of, oh my God, as much as I wouldn't like to admit it, a lot of my success and my team's success and my ability to develop other leaders and get my team what they need to succeed boils down to my ability to understand that everything cycles through the sales funnel process. So in terms of the sales funnel process, there are like 5 main stages if you think about it. Awareness. Like, what is the problem, or what is the opportunity, or what is the thing I need to communicate to you, right?
Yeah.
My name is Raedene Copeland. I'm your NEO leader. You're trying to convince them you're competent, you're here for them, or you're going to leaders and saying, hey, we need a new printer, or we need to negotiate bonuses for our team, right? Awareness of the problem, awareness of the opportunity, awareness of why you're there. Interest. Some people will shut you down, and they're leaders who have successfully gotten people to stay or to be interested in their issues, right? And that's because they don't go to them with the same pitch. A big part of what I loved about sales was the understanding that it's more so about your target audience than you.
Absolutely.
It's more so about the person you're trying to partner with
Yeah.
than you. So that is how you pique their interest, because you'll set up your ask in a way that piques their interest. Number 3, evaluation. That evaluation process, I would argue, is happening on both sides, right? So you made awareness of the problem, you piqued the person's interest, they're listening, you gave them your pitch, and now they're evaluating how far they want to move. Do they want to buy what you're selling, or do they just want to shut you down? That's the evaluation process on that end. For you as the leader, you always have to go back and say, is there something else I should have said? Did I do this? Because there's always opportunity to revise and provide additional information. People think it just ends there. No, you're always selling.
Keep the ball in play at all times, really.
Stay in control, right? Stay in control of the process. Engagement.
Yep.
How much do you engage, right? So after they're evaluating, that's the engagement. You stay engaging. And then purchase, that is the buy. Did you gain buy-in? And that is what I'm talking about, sales and negotiation. It's not just, I am selling you something you don't want. It's not this grimy part of, I'm going to sell you something and manipulate you and screw you over. It's that I am doing a service to those I believe I'm here to serve. Be it that you're selling products, be it that you're leading a team, your ability to influence not only your team, but your higher ups and the horizontal leaders is going to make you a more effectual leader. So Dennis, I'm going to let you jump in and respond how I have integrated the sales.
No, that all makes immense sense to me. I think the only thing is to look at that question of how we could bring in this skill. If you want to be to be a better leader. Frankly, I don't think you are a leader if you don't have influencing skill. But how can you develop it more? Or if you are a manager, that are actually in charge of people, you're giving people tasks, but they're only following you because they're paid to do it. And you're not actually directly influencing them to do a better job and so on. So I think for people like that, we have to consider how are we going to get those skills? And on a very simplistic level, I really do believe that, it comes back to the authentic part. I think if we are seen to be consistently fair and, we do as we say we're going to do, and we have to lead by example almost to get people to influence us. I know people can be influenced by words, but I think that the deeper relationship of influence has got to be by actions. They say this person is something who said they were going to do that, and now they actually did it. And that, I think it was Dear Sims, who was, Puff Daddy or whatever, his personal assistant said that the greatest thing in the world is doing what you're saying you're going to do. She said, it is the smallest thing, and yet it is the greatest thing. And it is, and that in a sense is influencing in a way. Because if you actually do what you're going to say you're going to do, whether you're a plumber or an HR person or whatever you are, if you say, I am going to do this on such and such a date, and you turn up and you say, I am going to do this, and you do it, you will always get people coming back to you, because then you have influenced them to the extent that they know that you are reliable. And in this world of change and whatever, reliability is one of the great influences. If you know your plumber is going to turn up at 9 o'clock to solve a problem, and they turn up at 9 o'clock, whether you like them or not has nothing to do with it. But you are going to continually use that plumber because you know they'll turn up and do the job. That is a form of influencing. It's by example, isn't it? It's saying, you know, I know this person will turn up. I know this person. I will trust this person to look after me and the people in my department. So that's that influence in that sense. I don't know. I'm not scientific enough to know the effect of influencers who, because they dress in such a way and have this lifestyle. I don't know if that influence is lasting, and that's something you might know better. How long does influence last? Until A, either the trust has been broken, or B, the model that you have been influenced by goes out of fashion. I don't know.
Oh, well, Denis, this is how it works. And that's what I'm saying. It's about authentic. It's about your authentic ability to show up in various spaces to meet the needs and requirements of that target market. You are who you are. So let's just say if you had to show up for an interview, everyone is not going to go into their wardrobe and choose the same thing for the interview, right? And what they wear is not going to make or break once they fit into the category of the expectations of the interviewers. That's what I'm saying. So it's not that your dress or fashion or those influence. If we want to go like to social media, if they are authentic, then yes, that is lasting. If they are not, if they're only promoting certain brands and so forth to make money, and then people find out, wait a minute, you said you were vegan, or you said you were this, but I saw you eating a burger. That is a lie. That is the manipulation that I'm talking about.
I get that.
That is the manipulation I'm talking about. But what I want to make really clear is that how you appear is step one. And what I tell people is that you need to make a decision about how you choose to appear. Simon Cowell has a lasting impact. He has always worn white t-shirts. Mark Zuckerberg, right? They wear these step guys, white t-shirt and jeans. And they're consistent. They're consistent because they understood that their audience and their target market and their field allows them, right, to do this, right? Target audience, field, right? Their field allows them to do this. So it fits. So it's not about wearing Louis Vuitton or being the most fashionable. It is about understanding that before you speak, before you deliver, before you even have an opportunity to deliver high results consistently, you can make it easier on yourself and your lived experience if you make a decision about how you're choosing to appear, right? And the other thing I want to add, it's not just doing the job. There are people who show up, and this is like the bane of my existence. They show up, right? They can show up on time. They can speak the most professional talk. They have very safe professional personalities. That's what I call it, right? Safe professional personalities. It's almost like cookie cutter what a professional is. You can put them in the manual, right? And you're like, wow, you are like, oh my God, you are this cookie cutter. But people like that, it works. It is going to get them into many doors. Sometimes I wonder, is this really you? Or is this who you think you're supposed to be? Because you see so many similar people like that. And then when you find people with unique and kind of eclectic personalities, you're like, oh, you're so different. No, they're authentic, right? And they're different things. But that's what I'm saying. Oftentimes, for people to make the money and get to where they want to get to, somewhere they have learned that this is what it means to look and behave like a leader, right? So that's one thing. The other thing is that I want to really challenge you in terms of this idea. It is not just doing what you say you're going to do. it is doing it well. And this is the issue I have in terms of being a global leader of distinction. You have to remember that to travel the globe and influence and lead people, what worked in American culture or what worked in Minnesota is not going to work in North Carolina, is not going to work in Seattle. And you go bigger, it's not going to work in the Caribbean, it's not going to work in China. You have to keep understanding the culture of the people that you're about to interact
the audience,
and do it. And when you deliver, going back to the bane of my existence, you could be the most cookie cutter professional person and turn things in on time. But the quality of your product or your ability to negotiate better for your employees, you fall short. And I don't care how polished and well-spoken and whatever you are, if you can't deliver, right? If you cannot deliver, then eventually that is going to wane. So it's not just their appearance is going to wane, it's the quality of what they're delivering on a consistent basis. In the end, that I believe is the biggest marker of influence. And that's why some people are able to go further ahead than others, because be it that they can negotiate better for themselves at a more successful level, or in a perfect utopian world, they are that leader who gets recognized for having enough of each category of competency needed to be that next leader at the next level. So that those are I know I said a lot, but I do.
No. This is all good stuff. Talking about the negotiation, I think some philosopher or somebody said ages ago, I remember, he said most of the conflict in the world are because of the clash of culture. Because in a negotiation between those two cultures, one side will be negotiating to bring about closure, and the other side will be negotiating to gain advantage.
Right.
And those two objectives are never, ever going to meet. So it is important to understand the audience where you're going for. Many British enterprises have tried to sell things in America and vice versa. And just because we talk a very similar language, it doesn't mean that the culture's the same. Many of those enterprises have fallen flat on both sides. And again, we have to understand a lot about the culture that we're dealing with. And the other thing is, you're quite right about the cookie cutters. There are outstanding individuals who work in very small enterprises and whatever, but people listen to what they say. They don't come from the giant consultancies. They aren't, they will say things and people will say, my goodness me, that person is punching well above their weight because of what they're saying. And I think that's very, very important. And I have to say one thing on a personal note. Somebody said to me the other day something I haven't heard for about 50 years, and they said, I really want to be like you. Thank you for everything. Now, I was absolutely left, it was written, but when I read those words, I was absolutely swept away. I naturally recoil against that, because I say, well, don't be like me, just be you, but I understood the sentiment behind it. And well, it's kind of, I don't seek to convert people. I don't think we do. I think we just want people to, as you do, Raedene, as I do, I think we challenge people to think about stuff. I think that's the best mission we could ever have. So, and in that sense, I guess we influence, in that way. People might say, well, they're saying things. Yeah, I agree with that. So it's so many degrees of influence, isn't it, really?
Yeah,
depends what the mission is,
And that's what I go to say. It depends on the mission is. So, I think what makes us interesting is that when you talk about influence, you talk a lot about the personal level, right? You talk a lot about, you're talking on that level of, just be who you are, be a good, accountable, consistent person. and you will be influencing. And then when I talk about it, I agree. That is, to me, that is the foundation of who you are, who you will be remembered for, how you made people feel, how you treated them, how you showed up, and how much they can trust you. It's not about perfection, but it's about they take themselves and then they be like, you know what, I trust what I know about them. I trust what I know about him. I like this. He's real as they come. That is it. I love these things. But when I talk about leading in a work environment,
right,
this is not cinnamon muffins and blueberry muffins. This is not that. This is you have to deliver. And that is why I say I often find that people may put themselves out there without even thinking that, okay, I am saying I want this position, but I'm just going to stand up there and just talk and just be like, oh, I'm just going to go and just tell you with no preparation. And that is why I think oftentimes people who have a sales background, people who also did theater, they sometimes have they're better public speakers sometimes because they understand literally
communication.
Exactly. I am communicating and there is a goal and it's not by chance. This is not me showing up in a safe space with friends and with my spouse, with people who love me and accept me. This is me trying to achieve a goal. If you were fighting to like reverse poverty or to get to things, it's a job. Influencing is a job. And that is what I want to leave people with today. When I talk about it's pure sales and negotiation, I don't mean like selling people something they don't want. For you to do better for your employees, it behooves you to start taking a negotiation course. It behooves you to start studying, how does my favorite retailer get such a big share of my wallet every month? How are they doing that? How are they doing that? It behooves you to think about that, because what happens is that we separate the fact that we are being influenced by people who run businesses and they are using the sales funnel process. And we separate that and just believe that somehow we'll succeed by just being. No, there's no being. When you look back at your life, you will realize that you could have done more or achieved some of your goals if you got better mentors, if you realize that, you know what, let me be honest with myself. I did not prepare well enough for that pitch. I keep going the same way. I did not look at myself and say, Raedene, what could you have done better? You didn't do that stage of reflection. You didn't do that phase of cross-exam. You didn't do that. And when you do that, to me, you're always going to hit a glass ceiling, a self-prescribed glass ceiling.
Self-imposed,
You did it yourself. So that's my thing about, you have to be a leader of influence, but I want people to know influence is personal and professional development. You have to take an audit of how you show up, how you behave, and how you deliver, and what your results are, and what is the response of the people around you, the people you serve, if you want to succeed in a leadership trajectory and role. But for your loved ones and your mom and your daddy, they may always love you, flaws and all. But when you're trying to earn an income from someone else, worse yet, when you're an entrepreneur, you're always influencing. You're always saying, this is what I have to offer. Do you buy in? That is pure bones sales. So, Dennis?
I think the last word I want to say is that, and it's not always about winners. You know, people in history, in sport or any other, have also been remembered and influenced by the heroic way they failed.
Yes, failing fast, love it.
Yeah, you can influence by people saying, my goodness, they lost, they got killed, whatever. But look at the heroism, look at the dedication and so on. Look at the effort they put in, and that is an influence in itself. So it's not always about winners, is it? It's what you put into the thing.
Totally.
Life isn't just about winners, it's for all of us.
Oh no, and that's what I'm saying, because maybe I think what happens, and I often say this, is that people look at people who are winning in life and they just assume that it was easy for them or that whatever it is. And going back to what I just said, they don't realize that these people were just failing forward. They don't realize that they just kept being humble, hungry, and aggressive about their growth and doing an audit of, okay, what do I need to improve? That part they may never tell you. That part you don't see. Sometimes you do see it. Some people are more transparent. Most people are too fragile to air all their failures out. But the point I'm making, most successful people, we underestimate how much they have failed forward. So winners are literally, just for the majority of people who fail forward. That's it. And that's how they influence. And maybe when they get to the top, they then tell you their stories, because some people don't like to air their failures because they feel as if people look at them as insecure or.
Well, and also failure is a thing much better looked at in retrospect than living in the moment.
I love that. I love that. But I do think on that note too, Denis, that you have to have a level of vulnerability, because too often, people are too busy trying to put up that perfect appearance and not just saying, hey, you know what, team, when I did that, that was a misstep. I'm going to work on it, because to me, that is my authentic leadership style. If I can claim and own my missteps while being still superbly competent and still superbly lovable, to me, that is the best leader. I want a leader to say, I didn't mess up. Oh, you're going to be fine. Do this and do that. And when you take that advice and you keep sharpening yourself, to me, that's all you can ask of people. Right?
I think you're right. I mean, the problem, the tendency today is to throw somebody else under the bus for your mistakes. And I just think that just shows a complete lack of values, really.
My God.
If you can't take that responsibility, then you shouldn't be in a job like that.
Oh my God. Oh my God. So yes.
That's for another day, I think.
That's for another day, because Lord knows I've come across leaders who just refuse. But you know what? I wrote a post on this, on LinkedIn, the 48 Laws of Power. And the guy, just to remind people, the author said he wrote that book based on getting burned, right? Based on his maybe toxic work experiences. And then he was like, well, I guess these are the 48 laws of power. And one of them was never take responsibility. Throw other people in prison, never show weakness, etiquettes, all of these types of narcissistic things that they're like, no, you just can't. It has stuff like never outshine your boss and these things, but it's this idea of, you don't take responsibility. You find a way to shirk responsibility. But I'm just like, that is, and that's why I want to put his book into context. He said it's because he was burnt by these behaviors, and he was going forward with what you said, Denis, just this maybe authentic, everyone is a good person. But no, there are leaders who influence, who step on other people's toes, heads, whatever, to get ahead. And that is why it's not just about people who appear to be winning. You have to find influential people who match your core values.
Yes.
And definitely. Who earn your buy-in, right? Because other than that, if you don't think about the fact that you're always being sold to or always being influenced, then you're just going to catch yourself following all sorts of people and ending up in a ditch with them when they end up there. So that is my
excellent
point. Yeah, well. Anything else, Denis? Anything else?
No, that's all from me. I think we've covered that one very nicely.
Yes, I think it's a good topic. Just a life topic, period.
Yeah. And it always throws up new topics for next time. I make notes here, and oh my goodness me, but never mind. That's the way we are.
Exactly. Well, I love it. And I just want to thank our listeners for joining us in this journey. I want to thank Denis for continuing to show up and partner with me on our podcast, Leading Conversations. And we look forward to discussing another intriguing topic with you next week on Leading Conversations. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Ciao.